Thank you so much for being here.
I'm so excited.
Yes, today I'm here with Jessica Burgio. She is the host of the Unscripted podcast. She is a business mentor for creatives, and also she loves helping people create a ride or die community doing what they love. So thanks so much for being here today.
So excited.
Yeah.
Yay.
So I want to hear, just before we dive in, I'm going to share a little backstory. We met on Instagram. You reached out to me. You're like, we have some people in common. I feel like we need to know each other. And it was so great because I got to be on your podcast. Yeah. And I found out through us just getting to know each other that you were a hairstylist earlier on in your career. I was a jewelry designer. Now you're a business mentor. So tell me a little bit about your journey. Like, how did you come to be a business mentor and a podcast host?
I know it's funny how the full circle moment happens because it was a seed that was kind of planted because I had some really great mentors in my life, both in the beauty industry, but then also just kind of from afar, those people that you admire, that you think, wouldn't it be cool if I could be in their world? Or they're a little bit aspirational, so you want to be around them in some form or fashion. And so that started with a girlfriend of mine. Her name is Lori Harder, and she was a fitness mentor before she was ever a business mentor for me. And so seeing her on the covers of magazines and just getting her brand out there before I really knew that's what it was. And I think something that she was doing really resonated with me. And I watched her go from this fitness queen, really, of the thing that I admired most about her, into essentially a personal development junkie, as she calls herself. She partnered up with Gabby Bernstein, and she was just changing the language she was using, and she was attracting a different audience while still utilizing the audience that she had.
Right.
And so watching her do that, watching her show up unapologetically on Facebook Lives every single morning in her robe, just looking like whatever, to see what would land for her, but then also I think it was proof of concept before she really believed she could be a podcaster. I mean, this was like maybe 10 years ago.
Right, when it was all starting.
When it was all starting. And so I was fortunate enough to get to work for Strong Fitness magazine. Fitness and health has always been a big passion of mine. I was a gymnast growing up. And so after high school, there was nothing really to compete, no competitive sports I was interested in. So I got into bodybuilding and then became a personal trainer alongside doing hair. And so I utilized both communities and my clients from one to the other. And I remember watching Lori do from one to the other. And so I knew that your people would follow you no matter what.
Yes.
And I knew that even early on as a hairdresser, I wasn't the best hairdresser, but people connected with me. It was the energy, it was the client experience. And so I knew there was something there that I could take and parlay in the future if I was ever brave enough to do something like that. And I'd always told myself that I would become a hairdresser until I could figure out what else I wanted to do.
I love that.
Yeah. It's a great, I don't know if it's a lie we tell ourselves or it was like this manifestation before I really knew what manifestation was, and projecting and kind of seeing yourself as something you're not yet.
Yes.
And then watching other people, you start to borrow the belief, like our friend Lindsay Schwartz always talks about. Sometimes you have to borrow somebody else's belief before you could even consider yourself for that role. And so I went to the Bliss Projects with Lori, but because I got to work for Strong Fitness magazine, her and I hosted a few camps together. And so she became this real person. Yeah. And she really wanted to connect with people. And I was like, okay, so she's not that far off. Because often we'll put people on pedestals and we'll think we could never, or who am I to want what they have? I don't have that credibility. I've never been on the cover of a magazine. If I'm not that, then I could never do that. Limiting belief, all the stories, we all have them.
Yes.
So all that to say, that was like a 10-year journey while I was still doing hair, while I was still personal training. My son was very young, and she had gifted me the very first ticket to that Bliss Project. Then I became a volunteer because I couldn't afford to get in some of the rooms that they had. So I say, side note, if you ever can't get in a room because you can't afford it, see if you can work the back end and volunteer for something.
So smart.
Yeah. And becoming a fan and a advocate for somebody else and showing them that you care, especially with social media now. I mean, the shortcut is showing up on someone else's page, pouring into them, giving them feedback, leaving reviews, getting into their world as much as you can, even if you can't maybe afford to be in the bigger rooms. So in the interim of all of that, I was at the top of my game, I think, with the hair industry, because I had capped myself with a glass ceiling of, if and when I make this much, I've made it. And I couldn't get past that number doing hair. I just couldn't.
Right.
I'd hit multiple six figures and I would bounce around, bounce down. And I just thought, I can't do any more of what I'm currently doing.
And you're also trading time for dollars.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, which we all do in our own way, but at the same time, this was literal. If I wasn't there, I wasn't making money. And in fact, with the salon ownership, you're actually paying to not work when you're, plus managing, leading people. So in all of that, because I had so much trust built with Lori and we had such a connection, when her husband launched his elite level mastermind, I was very intrigued. I'm like, oh, what is a mastermind? What is this all about? At the time, he only had the elite level mastermind and you had to be making $500,000 in your business to qualify. And that was the first time that in my mind I thought, well, I'm nowhere near making that right now. And if I continue on this path, I won't be there ever. Not in 5 years, not in the next couple of years. I wonder what those people are talking about. I wonder what conversations I wonder what conversations are being had in that room. How are those people so easily checking the box? Because $500,000 is not that 7-figure, 8-figure. And I mean, they were rambling off. These are who was in this room. Now, I had watched Chris before he kind of started this. And I remember where he was at before these masterminds. And so because I knew them and had a relationship, I kind of went around the back door and I said, hey, I've never been in rooms like this. I don't qualify, because at the time he had just launched this early stage entrepreneurial mastermind called Fast Foundations. And you had to be making at least $50,000 in your online business to join.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, well, I'm making well over that in my brick and mortar, but I do not have an online business. But I'm guessing if I want one, I should get in this room.
Yes.
So again, asked for permission. Of course, they're great salespeople as well, but they were like, masterminds have changed our life. All we can tell you is get in the room and let these people help you figure out what the next step is for you. And so that's all I needed was like this invitation, because I'm a projector. And the invitation was, how good can it get? How much better could it be? Like, put yourself in the room where people can start to pour into you, see your gifts, and then help guide you into what's next. So that's how it kind of all started. And that was about 5 years ago. And I was so grateful that I had taken that path pre-COVID, because it really gave me a lot of insight and, I guess, permission to take action when my salon was closed. So during that 6-month period when I was in that mastermind, my dream space fell on my lap. I was brave enough to find the resources to open my own salon. And then 6 months later, we were closed.
So crazy.
And all the while in those 2 years, I'd been watching Lori and Chris start their podcasts, too scared to start my own. Then finally the salon was closed. I had a space like this. I had a client who was a videographer, and he was like, let's start your podcast. And so that's how the podcast was born, which was originally called the Beauty Inspires Beauty Podcast.
Okay, so let's talk about Unscripted then. So you had the Beauty Inspired Beauty Podcast. How long did you run that before you rebranded it?
So I took an angle with that podcast because I didn't want to be a statistic. I'm kind of like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it.
Yes.
So I sat in the studio like this and recorded over 25 episodes with my industry people. I was like, bring them in the back door. Like, let's have a conversation. How are you handling this right now? You know, and then it would turn into, how did you become successful? I've watched you on social media, but I never had a chance to talk to some of these people. I didn't get to ask them questions. And so I realized everything I had practiced behind the chair as a hairdresser, great communication, asking questions, was going to make me a great interviewer as a podcaster. And I knew that my end all wasn't only speaking to my industry, it was eventually going to be broader, but I didn't see that at the time.
Right.
So I started with what I had, with who I knew, and the community that I could leverage. And so after about 45 episodes, it started to feel kind of out of alignment. Because I had been in such a big room with that mastermind and surrounded by so many people outside my industry, I was like, we're all entrepreneurs. A lot of people are pivoting. A lot of people are reinventing themselves. A lot of people are trying to figure out what's next on their path. COVID really shook people up as to what was predictable and what could be taken away. So a lot of pain points were touched and a lot of people were ready to take action. And so in all of that, I started to feel really out of alignment with only my industry. Plus that name didn't really resonate with me. And I had just found a new producer and we sat down and we talked about what we wanted the show to evolve into. And I kept using the word, I just want it to be unscripted. Because I felt like I had been so scripted and so strategic with my questions and the positioning and all of that. And I wanted to be an industry leader with the podcast. And I just was like, I need something more creative, more open, more free-flowing. And she's like, let's just call it unscripted. I'm like,
I love that name.
But there's 50 other unscripted podcasts. And she's like, there's none with Jessica Burgio. And so her being with me, having my back and saying, you can do this too, that's how we shifted. And so that freed up and opened up my ability to then bring anybody I wanted on the show, open up the conversations I was having, you know, really study my tape, as I like to say, and become a better interviewer and really say, okay, I made it to episode 50. Let's take this seriously. Let's turn it up a notch. What can we do with the show? And so we went from 1 episode a week to 2 to 3 for quite a while.
Wow.
And
3 is a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. But that's where I really honed in on my skill with podcasting and then realized what a powerful platform it was. And so that evolved into all the other things that I've been able to do.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. Okay. But before we do, when you did your rebrand, like, what was that like? Like, how'd you introduce that to your audience? And how did you bring them along? Because I know that you're someone who's, like, amazing at building community.
Thank you. Well, I think they could feel it coming with the conversations I was having, and the people I was starting to bring on the show weren't just in the industry. And I was explaining to them the power of expanding your community, your own network of people, and how powerful learning from people in different industries can be, bringing it back home to your business.
Exactly.
Because in the hair world back in the day, 25 years ago, it was like salon down the street. We weren't sharing formulas. We weren't sharing all the stuff we see on social media. It wasn't like it is now. It was a very much like mine is mine and like don't ask me for anything. But now education's free. We have YouTube. We have all these platforms. And so if you're not adding value, people aren't sticking around. And I remember talking about a lot of that stuff and sharing that my journey was like a come with me versus like ever trying to be like, look at me, this is how you should do it, because that's not who I resonated with.
Right.
So I realized if I wanted to bring people in that were attracted to my energy, I had to be more me. And so hence the name, hence it is an explicit podcast. I do use whatever language I prefer.
I'm all about that too.
Yeah. And so, you know, when you start to become more of yourself, you attract more people that, you know, resonate with you, your message. And I just started to have some really beautiful conversations with people who, again, it just kept building that belief that I could take my business to the next level. Yeah. I too could have a mastermind one day. I eventually ended up working for Chris and Lori as one of their coaches inside that mastermind. Then they sold it. I worked for the guys who took it over. And then essentially, I'm also a 2 on the Enneagram, which is a supportive helper.
Okay.
And so I tried to many times talk myself out of being the leader of groups and trying to always be that supportive role. But I realized I could be a supportive role in leadership to people I was serving. And so it's just always like a reframe. And I would say without a doubt, starting my podcast has helped me hone in on my voice, figure out who I am in the process. It's been 4 years.
Right.
And just be able to reinvent and pivot and bring people with you, because that's all they want. That's why we love reality TV. Yep. It's the whole journey. It's not the end. And once I realized that, it took all the pressure off of like, where am I going? Why am I doing this? And just like, who's here for the ride?
I'm so excited that you're saying this because we're interviewing this for my podcast Pivot. And I have over 515 episodes in my existing podcast, Thrive by Design, which is now turning into, or is now, Creatives Rule the World as you're here. And I'm so excited to be on this journey with all of you and bringing you along, because I think one of the most important things for creativity and the human existence is pivoting and reinvention, because that's really where the creative juices get to fly. So I want to talk a little bit more about some of the things that you did to just inspire your community to stay. Because I think that there's part of it, like some people are going to leave, like, oh, I was only here for hairstyling advice, or I was only here to listen to marketing advice for jewelry businesses or whatever. But like, what were some of the things you did to bring people along on that journey?
So prior to starting the podcast, I had been building a community within my local network. Yeah. I was hosting brunches for hairdressers, and I really focused them not on education. It wasn't about hair. It was the first, in my experience, group get together where we were networking with one another. We were doing the deeper work. We were talking about how to break through the mindset of making 6 figures in the industry and taking your career seriously. So the first course I ever created was like a 6-figure mindset course. And if you took out hairdressing or beauty industry, it basically was an 8-module mindset course. I built it with all of the other things that I don't like talking about. And so I refined it to the 8 weeks of what do I love talking about, which are that mental blocks, that belief and all of that. And then your boundaries, your non-negotiables. And so people knew me for that kind of content. So I think I was attracting outside audiences far before I tried to only speak to the beauty industry. But because there was such a loyalty to where I grew up basically, like this industry raised me and gave me the belief that I could be an entrepreneur. And I think I felt I owed it to the community to pay it back in that way. And a lot of them started to see themselves as entrepreneurs in a bigger way versus I'm just a hairdresser.
Right.
So I think I took a lot of people with me on that journey in the sense that they felt like if she can do it, so can I. And so it was almost this unspoken, like, no one's better than anybody, but like I'm willing to try. And I talk about how, you know, I started to feel out of alignment with certain things and how I felt like I was, you know, too big to just stay behind the chair, but that I felt, you know, I wasn't a passionate enough hairdresser because I didn't want to be on stage and I didn't want to do this and this, but that was like, if you wanted to be famous in that world, this is the path you had to take. And I was like, I don't think that's for everybody. And so I think always including people in the conversation and always making sure the podcast was speaking to that person who needed to hear that little bit of reinforcement that they're in the right place, that they can make a decision and change their mind at any time.
Right.
You know, as a woman, we have that priority, the prerogative to change our mind anytime we want. And so, you know, I think even like that, messing up and leaving those in the edits and sharing with my audience, like, I'm not perfect and you don't have to be also. it takes people with that journey, and it's only natural that you're changing the podcast now. And I think that's so awesome that you
So excited.
I mean, and that's the passion. And when you look at your face, I'm so excited. And your audience is going to feel that. And they feel it when you're not excited anymore. And they feel it when you're not showing up the way you used to. And so it's almost a disservice to the people you're trying to stay connected with for you not to, feel into that and do something about it. And that's what makes you a great coach, is that you also tune into that intuitiveness. Not only do you teach it and coach it and help people kind of like reset. I took your masterclass on, getting ahead on the year and really planning for that. So I think with all of that, the journey's kind of just unfolded on its own without really any expectations, but just always an invitation that if you resonate with where I'm at, and I've been more vulnerable over the years on sharing what I've gone through and how hard certain things have been. And I think that piece in and of itself is the connection that people have with me. And the most DMs I get are, I'm so glad you shared that. Thank you for talking about that. So it just makes me know that, I'm human too. And I was a single mom for a long time. And there's a lot of little nuances that I connect with my audiences on that maybe I'm not going to be the coach for women who are single moms specifically, right? How they tell you to niche down. But I'm going to share the stories, and maybe you're not a single mom, but maybe you're single. Maybe you're a single dog mom, and maybe you've had to do everything on your own, or you grew up with a single mom. So thinking
or you're a bonus mom.
or that, thinking your story isn't big enough to connect with an audience is the thing that holds so many people back. They think their story's not as important, that they don't have enough content to talk about, that they can't have a podcast helping other people because they're not far enough ahead. So there's so many things that hold people back from doing like what you've done, 500 plus episodes. Like, that's insane.
It's insane.
Insane.
I'm really proud of myself.
You should
500
be.
episodes, it's a lot. There's actually more episodes than that because some of them I didn't number, but whatever.
I believe there's probably some you didn't release either.
I know,
too. Yeah.
so many. I want to just reflect something back because there was a pivotal moment in one of my reinventions when I was sitting down with my consultant and coach at the time, and he said to me, Tracy, you can change your mind. You don't have to keep doing the same thing. Just because you started something in a certain industry or in a certain way, or this is what your business was up until this point, doesn't mean that this is what you have to do forever. Yeah. And I want to reflect that back to you because I think that one message is one of the most important things that we all need to remember. The second you get out of alignment, and I'm going to say this because I've been through it and I've been going through it for a couple years. The second you get out of alignment, things start to fall apart. And until you can get back into alignment with what you're meant to be doing and who you're here to be, the universe is just going to be giving you more shit to solve. And it's not fun. No. So, be brave, be courageous, step into the person you're meant to be, because that old version of you is amazing. We love her. We love him. Like, that person's amazing. It got you here, but it's time to step into the next version.
And so many people sit in that knowingness where they're not feeling connected to what they're doing anymore or the environment that they're in, but feel powerless to make changes.
Right.
Who am I to leave this group of friends that I grew up with? Who am I to leave the salon I was at, for example? Everyone's going to think I think I'm better than them. And if I go off and open my own salon, the person who's given me a job for the last 9.5 years is going to take it personally. And she did. And so there was a lot of things I had to get over and be okay with, because it was for the greater good of me. And, as a mom or as somebody who wanted to be, a light in other people's life, I couldn't have my own light dimmed because I was too scared to take the next step, which it is scary. It is scary to do things you've never done before, put yourself in situations you've never been in. And I love people like to use the term imposter syndrome. I'm like, it's not imposter syndrome. It's, you've never done it before. You're brand new. Why would you be good at it yet? Why would you feel confident? You haven't done it yet. And I even, as I was coming over here for today's episode,
I love that reframe.
I was like so excited to be here. I felt a little nervous, but it's excitement to be able to have powerful conversations that hopefully can connect with one person versus that grander thinking of like, I hope I reach millions of people and have sponsors coming to me and trying to, it's no. What if Tracy and I can have a really great conversation that we both are enjoying and that you can take something away from listening today on your walk or in the car? It's like such an intimate moment. And if we hadn't been brave enough to start the podcast, which mine were awful. So if you want to prove that you can suck and then get better, go on my YouTube channel and watch my first few. They're awful. They're totally awful. But if I didn't practice and if I didn't, want to get better, I would have never then rebranded and then been able to expand and coach and have masterminds like I did with my mentors and just do all the things I've been able to do. And every new level then gives you a new example of, wow, this also now feels out of alignment. But wait, I'm doing everything I thought I wanted to be doing.
And it changes.
And you and I talked about this last night, so I would love to reflect that back on you, because you even briefly mentioned about the community that you've built and everything that you've been doing too, and it's starting to feel like maybe not where you want to stay for the next couple of years. And I want anyone listening to feel that, like what you said, you can change your mind and you can take what you've learned, repackage it, reframe it, and tomorrow decide you're going to do something different, or you're going to speak to a different audience, or you're going to move across the country.
All of it.
Whatever, yeah.
All of it. Yes. And I think that the most amazing thing, my friend said this to me one time. Actually, she's a student of mine who's become a friend. We were in a mastermind group, and about a year ago, I was hosting a retreat, and the attendees of my retreat insisted that they give me a hot seat.
Okay.
So it was like really
So they
awkward.
all got hot seats, and then
I gave them all hot seats, and it was awesome. They were like mind blown, like everything. And they're like, we really want to give you a hot seat. And I was like, okay, I don't know what's going to come out.
I love this.
But I admitted for the first time that it was time for me to like grow up. And it's not like move on from what I've created, because I still see space for that. It's more about evolving into my higher purpose, because I feel like I've been called here to do something really big. And I've been ignoring the calling for like 5 years.
Anybody else?
And when you do that, it's like almost one of my main core values is integrity. And when you do that, you're literally out of integrity with yourself. And there's so many people out there who I feel like, and this really brings me back to the story of my mother, because my mom passed away when she was 45 and I was only 20, just about 22 years old. So young to like lose your life. She was just on the verge of having it all. Like my parents had gotten divorced. She finally got over my dad. She was making a life for herself, starting her own business, met the love of her life. Like they were moving to a new city to start their new life, like all the things. Overnight, just taken away. And it's so sad to me because we don't know when, like we're not guaranteed tomorrow. And I'll try not to cry, but we're not guaranteed tomorrow. And if you're here to do something big and you're here for a big calling and you don't follow that call, you've basically just wasted your time here on this earth, because people need what you've got. They need your message, and they need your brilliance.
And aside from what they need, you need it.
Yes.
And I think that's where often we feel like it's this duty to serve and this thing that we have to do because it's a calling and God put it on our heart, or whoever you believe in, or whatever that might be for you. But it's for you as well. And I think in business, everything in life, everything is transactional. Relationships are transactional. And when the transactions start to feel out of alignment, you have to do something about it. Otherwise, it'll eat at your soul, right? And that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
And that knowingness. And I think I put myself in situations and I look at stories and I watch parts of news things that remind me that life is short.
Yes.
And that at any moment, this could be it. And would you be there taking your last few breaths thinking, fucking did it all, I'm good to go, like hope everyone's fine with me being gone? Or would you be laying there wishing that you had just gone for it,
had started the business or taken the chance or
said hi to the guy?
Yes.
All of it. And we're at that age where it could be anything goes. People get cancer, people are dying. Like we all know people that have had sudden losses, and it does remind you of that. And everything from those hard moments on the treadmill, I think about people who can't be walking on the treadmill, and I always try to prioritize my perspective on things when things do feel sticky and hard, or that I have to do them. It's like, no, I get to do this. I'm lucky.
It's a gift.
It's a gift. And
we are so lucky. We get to show up every single day and have the honor of showing up for our communities, have the honor of showing up for our businesses, have the honor of showing up for our families, have the honor. And I think sometimes we get so stuck in like all the things that are going wrong instead of remembering, like this is a reminder for me right now, like instead of remembering like all the amazing things that we have the opportunity and the gift to be able to do every single day.
Look at us just tangenting in a way.
I know, it's amazing.
Welcome to Super Soul Sunday.
So I want to hear a little bit more, like talk a little bit more about podcasting, and what would it like if you think back to some of like those early episodes, what was like one of the cringiest moments?
Well, I think it was the fact that I did not vet the right person to do my audio and video. And I am I was a cheerleader. I'm naturally loud. I have an Italian family. I'm the oldest of all my siblings. So my voice, I feel like our energy's matched. Like
we're loud.
Yeah.
We're pretty loud.
And so when you don't have the right mic set up, when you don't have the thing set up, like things just don't come out right. And I think a lot of my first episodes were just not as good as they could have been. So that felt very cringy to put out content that wasn't perfect. I wouldn't say I'm a perfectionist, but I definitely don't like to do things half-ass. And so it made me want to throw it all in the trash. But I'd spent tens of thousands of dollars setting everything up and getting this stuff out there. I'm like, it's going out there. Messy. I'm like,
we're going to do it.
We're going to do it.
Better done than perfect.
So I just put that in my back pocket, made some changes. And then also, my questioning and editing, when it came to like vetting the right guests on the show, just because somebody wants to be on your show, what is the purpose behind having that person on your show? What value are they going to add? And honestly, just because somebody's maybe great on showing up on social media doesn't mean they're going to present well on your podcast. Putting episodes out that I could keep going. Putting episodes out that were not good because the guests couldn't land the plane. They couldn't bring a thoughtful circle. There was a lot of stuff that I just, let go and let the experience be what it was for me, the guests, the listeners. And again, it's just a journey. And, if you need proof for your podcast that it doesn't have to be perfect. But it's why I'm so passionate about teaching people how to strategically do it right now so that you can get further faster and you don't have to be at episode 300 or 400 to start to have serious traction and take your show seriously.
So what are some of the tips that you have for podcasters or people who want to maybe start a podcast or improve their podcast?
Okay, let's first talk to the person who's like wanting to start a podcast. I think they're definitely two different people. I think Tracy and I talked about, what motivated us, especially me to start the show. It was a pain point there that was bigger than my fear, which was the salons were closed. I didn't know what my next move was going to be. And I was angry that we were closed and couldn't work. So it pushed me to do something I'd been wanting to do. And I just started with what I knew, meaning like anyone in the industry who was willing to come to the salon, sit down and record with me, I took it. I was like, it'll be practice for me. It'll be good for them. So fast action is always the best. Put your camera up, get the pair of, headphones and just start. If the starting process is what's overwhelming, there is Google, ChatGPT. You can literally figure out how to do everything step by step. You don't need a fancy course. The thing about mentorship or having someone who's gone before you help you is that the little nuances of what you're setting up as far as your positioning, your niche, who your audience is, if you haven't started building a personal brand yet, where to kind of start if that's not already established. If you don't have a listenership or audience anywhere, how do you start to build something without any traction? You want to be building a personal brand alongside your podcast. I think the podcast can be the biggest brand accelerator for anybody, whether you currently are on any other platforms or are looking to expand, become a thought leader, put yourself out there, your content out there. It's ways people get picked up for book deals. So it all depends on like how you want to position yourself. I have some friends like Craig Siegel who, he came off of Wall Street hot and was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And I'm going for the big names and I'm going to leverage what little network I have. And I'm only going to, have people on who are at this caliber because I want my show to be at this caliber. And so he had to get over the mindset and the belief that, who am I? I've never done something like this. These people don't know me. But he was obsessed with Shark Tank. He's a great example. So he went after Mark Cuban. And now his show is sponsored by Mark Cuban.
Oh, that's amazing.
And he's had a book deal and he gets speaking engagements because that was his big vision of where he wanted to take the show. And so there's that, avatar if that's you. Or there's the person who just wants to start and to see where it'll go. I'm not the hugest fan of that now knowing what I do know. But I will say just getting a few episodes under your belt to see how you flow and how it feels. You might think this is what you should start to do, but then realize it's not really what you want to do, and that's okay too. I've helped people start their podcasts that, 15 episodes in, they're like, I actually don't want to talk about my personal life. I don't want to share this kind of stuff. Right. I thought I was ready, and I don't want to do it. So it's like either pause it and don't, or you tried it, so now you can say you're sure you don't want to do it anymore. So I'm an advocate for all of that. And then speaking to the person who has a show, maybe has 20, 30, 50 episodes in, feeling like you and I, where they want to rebrand or they want to pivot, or it doesn't feel in alignment or it's overwhelming, that's when you need to help on how to scale it, how to automate, systemize things. Are you really in it for the long game? Have you been making it harder than it is to batch out content? There's so many ways to get strategic in there, but really figuring out first and foremost, like, who is the main audience you're trying to serve, and how can you start to answer and serve them at a higher level so that your show sets you apart a little bit. That's going to help you get the most traction. I mean, what would you say has helped you get your show to where it's at?
Being consistent. I was committed. I don't think that we've ever not released an episode, maybe 2 or 3 weeks in the summer once, but that was like planned. And so what we did is we just repurposed episodes. So the consistency for me from the very beginning was the most important thing. I knew I wanted to drop an episode a week and be consistent because I was definitely using my podcast as a lead generation tool and as a nurturing tool for my community of jewelry business owners. Yeah. And then now in the rebrand, for me, what really the expansion that I want to create is to be able to impact all types of creative business owners to help them grow. But I think getting consistent, developing systems, and I'm not even a systems person, but I've developed some systems for myself. Like, especially I think batching is one of the things that is the most powerful. And batching just means being able to record a bunch of episodes back to back so that you have them and you're not trying to sporadically, randomly
each week
do an episode. And anytime I've gotten out of that cadence, it becomes so hard, like on my team and everyone to get it going because they're like chasing me for the episode. So batching has been huge.
And if you don't have a team in the beginning, it becomes more work for you and pressured that week to just pump something out, which might cause you to create something or put something out that you're not super stoked about. And so getting really intentional, and for all our women out there, if you pay attention to your cycle and when you're in your most creative state of flow, that is the week you should be batching. Because there's definitely a week in the month where you don't want to talk to anybody. And so this energy won't be there. And that's palpable with people who are watching your show on YouTube or on social media. They can feel if you're not engaged, if you're not into it, or if you're coming from a place of like, maybe not connectedness with your audience on what is like relevant at that time.
Exactly.
If, you want to be cognizant of what's going on in the world and who and what your audience is struggling with and who is the person you want this to land with. And so when you can sit down intentionally and create that batch content, it makes everything easier. I mean, I used to sit down and record 4 or 5 episodes a day throughout that week. And so I'd have plenty for the team to edit so that they could get ahead and I could approve the show notes like I wanted to, and I could really market the show like I wanted to, because having something, a product, a podcast, that's amazing is great, but if you're not marketing that well, if you're not like shouting it from the rooftops and doing that non-scalable stuff like guerrilla marketing with sending the episodes to people and asking people to share it, you need to be doing that stuff just as consistently as making the episodes.
Well, let's talk about that.
Okay.
What are some of the ways that you market your podcast to get more listeners?
So we have such great platforms now. We use systems as well. We record everything. You can pull out clips easily and turn them into
AI
reels.
has helped a lot,
Yeah, a ton. And there's tons of basically free resources that you can use to clip up the audio, which has been a huge, I think roadblock for a lot of people of like, I'm not tech savvy, I don't know how to do that. Again, if you have your phone or if you have access to anything, like I pay for a platform called Riverside, you can record in there, it gives you the full transcription, you can edit right in there, you can do a multitude of things, but you can make all of your clips in there as well. And so we all know you can't just throw up a story or throw up a reel without really talking about why you're doing that. So again, I had to realize I didn't love doing content consistently on social media, but when I had a podcast, every week I had new content to talk about and to get excited about. So maybe I recorded the episode with Tracy weeks ago and I had to like go back and listen to my episode to get refired up, look at the show notes, help, write out the blog post. And then as I talked about it, I could really get in real time really excited again for you guys to hear the episode that Tracy and I had, because it was so juicy, it was so good, and then you share little tidbits of why somebody would be connected to that episode. And then furthermore, you talk about why maybe it's not something somebody want to listen to. Maybe you're not a creative. This episode's not for you then. But I have 300 other episodes you might find value in. So marketing to the specific person that episode would be for, and then even going one level further of like going through your entire, call log or people and saying, hey, I think this episode specifically would be great for you, and you. Lewis Howes.
That's amazing.
Lewis Howes kind of talked about that a lot. He's like, even as big as my show has gotten, I still send, each week's episode to like 10 to 15 different people just to say, hey, I was thinking of you. And I think this episode
that's
would
a
be
brilliant
helpful.
idea. I've never done that.
Because 1, guaranteed they feel seen and like connected to you. 2, they're more likely to share it and talk about the episode, which then further markets your show. And it just,
you send it to your friends. You're like, oh, we were talking that you had this issue. Like, here's an episode you might enjoy.
I think you might get something out of it.
That's brilliant.
And there's
I'm stealing that. I've never done that.
There's a lot more strategy to those specific episodes also. If you title your episode something specific, 5 ways to whatever, and you don't get to that point in the first 5 to 6 minutes of your show, you're going to lose audience members. You're going to lose people who came specifically to get that thing you said you were going to give them. Now, I often will go down rabbit holes all the time. But I usually get to my 5 ways to whatever. So if I have to pre-record something to let people know, hey, I talk about XYZ at the beginning of the show, but at minute 20, I start talking about the 5 ways that you can XYZ, tune in then, or just fast forward right to minute 20. Telling people where to go, how to utilize your content, and what to do with it is key. And this is where like the fun strategy pieces come in for me, because I'm like, you can still be you. You can still do it your way. You don't have to do it like anybody else, but here are some best practices. And so I think titling episodes is key. Being able to edit right there in Riverside, you can kind of stuff things with keywords to then go onto your blog posts on your website that can then drive more traffic. So there's a lot of cool ways that you can kind of manipulate that. But the people I see that don't get the traction they want with their shows are people who are not willing to market their episodes over and over and over again. So just because the show comes out every Friday, you're going to post once. I mean, you have to post consistently to share, and you should be excited to do that. If you're not feeling excited to share your content, your alignment might be a little bit off. And so that's a good way to tune back in with yourself. If I'm not excited to share the stuff I'm recording, maybe I'm not doing it the way I should be doing. So it's a great just kind of like personal development journey in and of itself for you with your podcast. I think it's really helped me grow a ton.
I love that. I love it. I love all the tips that you just gave. And I have another question. You mentioned some of that, like to get more traffic, keywords, stuffing things, sharing it, all the things. Was there anything else specifically that you did to get more people listening to the show? Like on the platforms?
Oh, yeah. So I am on Tracy's show today. So as a podcaster, getting yourself around other like communities and audiences by being a guest on a podcast is first and foremost one of the things that I did not take advantage of when I started my show. I was head down. Again, I was putting out 3 episodes a week at one point.
Yes.
I didn't have time to be on other people's podcasts, let alone a lot of people that I was having on my show weren't podcasters yet, because 4.5 years ago, I didn't have a well-connected community of podcasters to ask to be on my show. But there's nothing like getting 2 podcasters on a podcast, because I think it flows really well, and you know it's actual conversation versus just a straight interview. And so I think, you know, with that being said, it's helpful to I don't know, it's helpful to be able to try different things out, but also, you know, at the end of the day, the marketing piece I think is the key. The key.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so one of the things that you mentioned in your pre-interview is that you love talking about attraction marketing. Do you want to explain a little bit more about what that is and how it's related to podcasting?
Well, it's kind of back to the same last question that you asked, like that attraction marketing, getting in front of those like audiences. That's the number one thing, but speaking in front of other people's communities, I think even doing into free stuff that's virtual or whatnot can help drive traffic to your podcast, to touch on that last point too. But attraction marketing is, again, you want to attract a like audience. So if you are creating something that you think people need, but it's not actually what your audience needs, it's going to fall short. Your launches will be quiet and you won't get the downloads you want. And so we can look at somebody like Jenna Kutcher or Amy Porterfield, who have very specific niche audiences. They are selling a very specific thing that they help people with. There are so many more broad podcasts out there that just talk about business or personal development. And so unless you are specifying exactly who you're serving, how you're helping them, it's tough for people to be attracted to your content. And I think there's little tips and tricks on how to market that with a good hook, again, with the title, you know, and then making sure that you are talking about your show everywhere you go. That will attract more people to, again, your energy. I think, you know, how have you been able to like draw more eyes on your show?
I mean, marketing it to my existing community, for sure. Talking about it a lot, being on other podcasts. Also using language that calls in the people that you want to be watching it in the captions and everything else that you're doing. Yeah. And, you know, I still like am trying to figure out this viral content thing because it hasn't really quite worked out for me.
Well, I will share, there was a guy who came and spoke at my event the other night, speaking about viral content, because that seems to be what people are really obsessed with right now. He creates content for people in a variety of different industries, specifically in San Diego, real estate agents. And so he had a new client come to him who was a real estate agent. He was from Japan, and they wanted to create content around, because how many real estate agents are there? Millions. Now there's millions of coaches who teach in personal development. So what sets you apart? So they took the avenue to create viral content around him, his background, and like what he wants to be known for just as a person. So they did, the first video that went viral was him talking about his 5 favorite Japanese restaurants in San Diego.
Oh, I love that.
They have nothing to do with real estate, but if you happen to find that piece of content, you're gonna be like, oh, Junpei, we love that you gave us 5 places to go. Oh, and we're gonna remember Junpei is a realtor too, because he touched on that. So I might not need a house anytime soon, or I might not list with you anytime soon, but I like you, I like your content, I'm gonna follow you based off the fact that you're teaching and sharing something with me, and I might think of you next time somebody mentions they wanna sell a house. So it's like kind of those little nuances I think people are playing with as far as viral content, because we've seen a lot of people go viral for what we would consider silly things or nothing to do with your business
at all.
But it's allowing your personality and your uniqueness and your quirky little things that might connect with people to come out. And then they're like, who is this girl? I like her. I like her energy. I love her shoes. I love that she does her makeup, and whatever. What does she do? And I think that's the kind of thing that we love, and why personal branding is so important. And, it's what Tracy speaks to as far as what you've even created. I feel like you have a very strong personal brand that allows you now to pivot and be able to kind of decide if there's a different path you want to take. And I think that's the power and freedom. I'm using air quotes if you're listening, because so many entrepreneurs are like, I just want the freedom. I just want the this and that. And I'm like, with entrepreneurship doesn't come freedom. It's maybe the freedom to choose, but for many of you, that's too overwhelming. Most people don't get that many choices in life. And a lot of times indecision will keep you stuck and more frustrated because you think you have so much time and you have so many options. But I think getting down to the root of like, who are you and what are you here to create? What's the impact you want to make versus how can I make money? I think if you go back to what am I passionate about? What would I get excited about? What are these conversations I'm having with my girlfriends or my guy friends that would bring value to other people? How many times have you sat down with somebody prior to the podcast and been like, oh, that would have made a great podcast episode?
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's just like the motivation and the momentum to allow things to evolve, which is what you're so great at helping people be brave enough to reinvent themselves.
Yeah. I think you said something in there that I want to pull out again about deciding, because I think deciding is one of the most important things that you can do. Like, you're making a decision whether you're making a decision or not, but if you're not clear on what that is and moving in one direction, even if it's the wrong thing, you're going to be stuck forever. Yeah. So try it. I was just interviewing someone and she said to me, she's like, well, if someone's out there like worried about trying something, just try it. If it doesn't work, then you get to tweak it.
Just like I said earlier about starting a podcast, you get in 5, 6, 7 episodes. It's okay if you're a statistic. Take it. Put that little notch in your belt. Be like, I did it. I tried it. I didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, not everyone likes it.
No.
I love it. It's like my favorite medium because, we just get to talk.
Yeah. And anytime I can get glammed up, that's my background. I'm like, let's play dress up and talk about really cool stuff. And if we can inspire and impact somebody and they can take something away today and have a better day, yes.
Of course.
Of course.
Now, when you've been through a lot of pivots and you're continuing to expand, what words of advice would you give to someone who is in the middle of a pivot right now?
In the middle of a pivot or thinking
about it in the middle of it, they're feeling a little bit stuck on their way?
I think we touched on a lot of ways that you can kind of move through that indecision and that indecisiveness. It is to just make a decision one way or the other and be okay with the outcome. I think taking your level of expectation down around how something's going to feel, the end result, all of that, what the journey's actually going to look like, will give you so much more freedom. You're welcome. There's your freedom to explore and play with different mediums, different outlets, different industries even. I thought for the longest time that I didn't want to own a space anymore. And so when I sold my salon a couple years ago, there was a huge piece missing that I didn't expect to feel. I thought I'd feel free. I thought I'd feel like, oh my God, great. I didn't really love being, the boss. I wanted to be one of them. I wanted to be in the community, not leading. And so a couple years later, now I've opened another space in a different way that feels more supportive for me. It's a mixed use space. I still do hair and makeup. We do a lot of photo shoots and photography. And I've taken everything that I love and turned it into something that could be a viable business without the expectation that it might. But the intention is there. And I knew if I didn't try one more time, that feeling wasn't going to go away. And so it's a very powerful thing to take action. And I think that action brings us that confidence and that clarity that we need in order to build up that momentum and to feel even more confident and even more clear on the next steps and even more in tune and aligned with how I'm feeling about something and saying yes to things versus saying no, or no versus yes. Like, I think you start to trust yourself a little bit more when you lean into the pivot. And I think just reframing the question as like, holy shit, what am I doing? I can't believe I'm doing this, to how much better can it get? So amazing. Yeah. What if it does all work out?
Yeah. What if it works out, guys?
And what if it's better than you could even imagine? And often, like, we are only dreaming at the level that we've seen around us or that we've experienced personally. And so when you put yourself in situations where opportunities can come, I mean, I'm sure you can list off so many opportunities that were never even on your radar that have either been presented to you or that you've maybe taken, that now you're like, what else is coming my way? Like, I just got the chills again. I'm like, yeah, let's go. Because
the once no's are now yeses.
That's what gets me excited, is like the kind of not knowingness. Whereas before, my little, I need to know everything. What's the plan? The certainty, it would drive me crazy. And I was so uncomfortable in that uncertainty that I guess my comfort zone has grown to where I'm like, okay, sure.
It's kind of fun to ride the wave in uncertainty. Well, certainty's great.
Yes.
Yes.
But for that person in that mid pivot or thinking about the pivot, you know, after 20 plus years, I did it slowly. I didn't burn the boats. I'm not a huge advocate for, you know, putting your family in despair because you want to quit your job and you just say F it and you did it. I'm all about like having some sort of a life raft or planning to have an exit strategy or to make a pivot, or how can I make a little bit more here so I can rob Peter to pay Paul and start my podcast.
Exactly.
So I did things in a way that felt safe and supportive for me. And when I needed help on an outside scale, I asked for it. I think asking for help is one of the biggest flexes you can make in life, because nobody gets a credit or an award at the end of the day of like, Tracy, you are so amazing. You did everything on your own. No. And I remember my mom telling me that when I was giving birth, and she was like, you don't get an award for not getting the epidural. Like, no one's going to care, you know, like just take the pain medicine. And so that's kind of what asking for help, paying to get into rooms, getting a part of people's coaching programs, and, you know, asking for that help of someone who's gone before you. You're a perfect example of that.
Thank you.
You've done it time and time again, and
so many times
created a process and a framework, and it's going to look different for everybody. But hey, if you're here, I can help you take the next right steps. And that's all coaching ever really is. And I think people get a bad rap for trying to become a coach. It's like, well, you haven't done it long enough, or you're not successful enough. And I kind of want to just give some positive light back to anybody who's thinking about stepping into the industry. Is we need people who want to help people. And if you think you can be that light for someone, or that you've gone through something somewhat transformational, even if it's the tiniest transformation, and you want to help somebody else in that way, let that be enough to start to take action, to start to talk about how you've overcome something and that maybe you can help somebody else do it too.
Exactly.
We all have to start somewhere, and we were all brand new at one point. We all had episode 1. We all had 0 downloads. We've all had silent launches, meaning nobody bought anything. You know, it's happened to everybody. So, and we've all gotten here with the help of other people.
Yes, this is true. I have one more question for you.
Okay.
What does creativity mean to you?
Oh my gosh. I'm looking at this beautiful painting on the wall behind Tracy.
I painted that.
Did you?
Yeah.
See what I mean? Okay, I was channeling. Looking at that, as you asked me that question, I was like, that piece of art is creativity to me. But like the way that we give ourselves permission to move through life is permission to be creative. And so many people who are in more structured corporate worlds don't feel like they're creative. And I feel like everybody's creative.
Yes, they
It's
are.
just a matter of opening up that channel and allowing yourself that space. We're recording kind of early today, and Tracy and I both, she was like, I'm a morning person, but I mean, like, I don't want to do this in the morning. I want to do me in the morning. And I'm like, me
so
too.
True. I know.
And that's where my creative time comes. And so setting those boundaries and non-negotiables to create that space for me to creatively be in flow, that's when I learn the best. I read in the morning, I journal. I used to podcast with like I've podcasted before at 4 a.m. when I woke up channeling something, thinking,
oh really?
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, let's not put this video out, but I have to put the audio out with this groggy voice because I was in the moment feeling that creative juice and energy. And so if you can create space and freedom in your days to allow for the creativity to come through, it'll take shit to the next level.
It definitely will.
Yeah.
Everyone's creative.
Yes.
Yes. So where can everyone find you?
Oh, well, the podcast is my favorite place to hang out as well. It's called Unscripted, the podcast with Jessica Burgio. I'm often entertaining everybody on Instagram with my funny morning stories. So if you're not a long form content person, you might like my funny shorter stuff that's on Instagram. But yeah, the podcast has its own page. I am Jessica Burgio on Instagram. And I just love a good, like, how you doing interaction. I love building community. So if you want to come say hi, I would love to hear from you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. So fun.
So good.